This Chat with the Experts is brought to you by Angie's List on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to Chat with the Experts. It is Kyle Hawk here, and I'm joined today by Brian Granger of Restorex Disaster Restoration. And we're talking all about how to handle a disaster when it happens in your home, whether it be flood, fire, or otherwise. And Brian and I were just talking about the importance of understanding your insurance policy to be prepared for these kinds of things. But as we talked about, it's hard to be completely prepared for when they come. So, Brian, whether it's water leaking into your basement, whether it's a broken pipe that happens this winter and water's rushing into your home, what's going to happen at that point? I mean, how long is it really going to take for the water to do serious damage within your home?
Sure. Typically, it happens pretty quickly, especially here in the central Indiana area. If there is some type of flooding and water's making its way in, it wouldn't last more than a couple of days before it makes its way back out. And the biggest thing that I could suggest to a homeowner, or the insurance company suggests to a homeowner, is if you find a problem, they want you to get it taken care of as soon as possible. The longer you let something sit and wait, the more susceptible you are to secondary damage, whether that be mold, mildew, something structural issues. So if you find out that you have a problem, first of all, what is the problem? You need to get a plumber in there to figure that out. And then secondly, get an expert out there to take a look and kind of figure it out what's going on, what's been affected, and what it's going to take to get you back to normal.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first thing right off the bat is finding somebody. Is there a way to know that you're, making the call to the right person as far as, restoration company goes even?
Sure. So what I would suggest in a lot of situations is people will call us, but who they really need to call, especially with most water problems, is a plumber, because we can come in and clean it up, but you need to get the problem fixed before any of that's obviously going to make sense. So get a plumber out there. He's going to be able to assess the damage. Different things with insurance are covered and some things aren't. So he'll tell us, okay, this was a broken pipe. It's 100% covered by insurance. Or,
sure.
Oh, this is a sump pump backup. It may or may not be. At that point, it's time to get a hold of a restoration professional. And what I'd encourage with that is Angie's List members wouldn't have a landscaper working on their car. So Don't get a carpet cleaner to clean up a flood. Carpet cleaners are just that, carpet cleaners. Ourselves, other restoration companies are experts. We actually have, specialty equipment, whether that be moisture meters to detect moisture in different material, dehumidifiers, air movers, equipment that's going to help dry out your property, not just in the carpet, but in the walls and the insulation. If you don't have professionals working on that, that's where, again, that secondary damage can really hurt you down the road.
We've hinted a little bit today at the mold issue that comes from this. And sometimes it's really obvious to tell if you've got a mold problem as a result of flooding in the home. But other times it may not be so easy. How do you actually know if there's mold hiding in some hidden areas around your home?
Sure. I'll tell you what, if your home's older than 5 years, it's got a little mold in it. And, that's just part of home ownership. Nothing can be completely seal tight. So there are going to be little patches of mold here and there. I'll be the first to tell you, if mold killed you, I'd be dead. I've been doing this a long time. We use protective equipment, but a little bit of mold here and there is not a major concern. Where we really get in trouble is when you get widespread mold in large area, and the people who are especially susceptible to it are the elderly and young children. So when that gets agitated and that's up in the air and they're breathing that's where you can get a sore throat, different types of sickness. And there's a couple different things that you can keep in mind to try to detect mold if it's not visible, like, in this scenario that you're talking about. So one thing is smell. Is there a musty smell in the air? You just can't quite figure out what it is. Any kind of discoloration that you see, whether that be in a wall, behind a toilet, underneath your sink, those are telltale signs that something might be leaking in there. And at that point, again, the sooner you can do something about it, the less susceptible you are for further damage down the road.
Sure. for some of these bigger mold problems like you're talking about, it's obviously going to require some mold remediation. And I'm wondering what happens during those projects. I mean, what steps are taken to eradicate a problem like that?
Sure. The biggest thing with dealing with mold is a lot of insurance companies have actually cut it out of their policy. So major carriers like Allstate or State Farm don't cover for mold anymore.
Wow.
Now, there are some insurance companies that do. Again, checking your policy is a good idea to figure that out. But the biggest thing is if you do see that small area, don't let it become a big area because you never know whether you're going to have coverage.
Yeah.
If it does find out that you have a big mold problem and we get in there and sure enough there's moisture, the back of the wall is covered in black mold, whatever situation you're dealing with, at that point we would get a air quality testing company to come out, and we want to test the air before and after the mold remediation takes place. We would be spraying a chemical. Our company use hydrogen peroxide, not like you can get at Walmart. This is for specialty restoration contractors. It's 17% hydrogen peroxide. So you'd be totally suited up, gloves, respirator, the whole 9 yards. And you want to kill the mold, but then you also want to remove it, because even if mold is dead, if it gets agitated up in the air, it can still be harmful.
Sure.
So a typical mold cleanup would consist of containments blocking the affected and unaffected areas of the home, air scrubbers purifying the air as the process takes place, and then removals and wiping down of material that was actually in contact with that microbial growth.
So, I mean, how long is a project like this generally going to take? I mean, obviously it's going to depend on the size of the problem, but what is somebody looking at?
Sure. Typically with anything you're dealing with, whether that be mold or water damage, we've got about a 3 to 5 day cleanup period that we can typically get everything cleaned up in that 3 to 5 days. At that point, the insurance company gets involved, and that can, the rebuild can take a little longer, whether that be 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. But the cleanup itself, typically about 3 to 5 days.
Okay. Well, obviously we've spent a good deal of time so far today talking about the water problem, and which of course leads to mold. One thing we haven't talked about is fire and smoke damage. Just to quickly touch on that, what is generally going to be involved in restoration after a fire in a home?
Sure. Well, typically with a fire, it's a little more emotional than with water and mold. Not always, but typically.
Yeah.
There's been a major loss. There's a lot of damage, not only to the structure, but also to the contents. And we've even seen where, there's loss of life in a situation like this. So homeowners can be extremely distraught when dealing with a major fire, and more so than we see in the mold and the water damage. So in a devastating event like this, typically the homeowner is out of the home, and there's a couple different things that we go through. Does the home need to be secured? What type of contents are salvageable? Do we need to, throw the contents away? Are they salvaging some contents? Is there a dry out that's going to need to take place if the fire burned a hole through the roof and it's been raining on it?
Sure.
And then we need to get in there and start to take apart the house to figure out what's salvageable and what's been destroyed. So the time frame on a fire cleanup is a lot longer than a water and a mold cleanup as well. You can be looking at as long as 4 to 6 months by the time you evaluate the problem, go through the insurance company, figure out what needs to be replaced, and actually get some payment to get started.
Yeah. And quickly, there's one thing of dealing with a devastating fire that's done significant damage to the home. There's also smaller fires that can cause bigger problems with smoke damage that maybe people aren't considering. Would that be true?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. With the smoke damage, the biggest thing that people don't realize is the actual amount that smoke can affect.
Yeah.
It attaches to anything and everything in its path, and if it's not cleaned properly, that smell will linger to the point where even if someone has a laptop computer, and they don't clean it, they want to take it to the hotel room with them, that odor is absorbed in that, in every little crevice. So at a certain point, being able to remove all those areas that are actually affected by the smoke, and then intricately cleaning all that content, all the contents, like a computer, dishes, clothes, can take quite a long process, quite a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take another quick break here, but the show is not about to go up in flames. When we return here, we're going to take a look at what's trending, and we'll take your listener questions as well and get some hard-hitting answers straight from our special guest today. His name's Brian Granger of RestoreX Disaster Restoration. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Chat with the Experts, brought to you by Angie's List.
Do you love a good bargain? Angie'sList.com showcases popular deals from highly rated local companies so you can save time and money on the home and health services you need most. Remodeling your kitchen? Painting your house? Cleaning your carpet? We've got a deal for that. Angie's List members even have access to exclusive discounts, up to 80%. Don't waste another day or another dollar. Start shopping now at Angie'sList.com.